Ever wondered how a simple studio can turn into a cinematic wonderland with just 2 lights, a little smoke, and a powerful performer? This behind-the-scenes session isn't your typical fashion shoot. It's a masterclass in atmosphere, mood, and visual storytelling. As the singer moves, smoke swirls, and light slices through the haze, every frame feels alive, every shadow whispers a story, and every highlight shapes emotion. You're not just seeing a photo shoot, you're stepping into a world where music, motion, and light collide, creating moments so striking they feel bigger than life. From subtle glances to dramatic poses, every detail is carefully orchestrated, showing that creativity doesn't need hundreds of lights, it only needs vision, timing, and the courage to let art speak louder than wardrobe. One glance at these frames and you'll see why minimal setups often create the most unforgettable magic. Behind the scenes of this lingerie fashion photography session with a singer is less about clothing and more about atmosphere, storytelling, and the craft of shaping light into emotion. From the moment we stepped into the studio, the goal wasn't simply to photograph a model in wardrobe, it was to build a cinematic mood where music, smoke, and lighting could merge into a visual performance. The singer brought a powerful presence to the set, and that energy guided every technical decision I made. I chose a minimal 2-light setup because limitations force creativity. When you reduce your tools, every adjustment becomes intentional. The key light was positioned slightly above eye level to sculpt the face and create clean highlights, while the second light acted as a rim source to separate the figure from the smoky background. Smoke wasn't added for drama alone, it functioned as a light amplifier, catching beams and turning invisible air into texture. Each burst of haze transformed the space, revealing depth that a plain backdrop could never offer. As the singer moved, the smoke reacted, creating natural motion that felt alive, almost like the environment was performing alongside her. I constantly adjusted the angles by inches, not feet, because small changes in lighting produce huge shifts in mood. When the key light softened, the scene felt intimate and quiet. When I increased contrast, the atmosphere became bold and stage-like, echoing the energy of a live performance. Communication on set was just as important as camera settings. Instead of rigid posing, I encouraged fluid movement inspired by rhythm, subtle turns, breathing, pausings, so the photos would feel like frozen music rather than static fashion shots. The lingerie wardrobe contributed to shape and silhouette, but the real star was how light wrapped around form, revealing contour without overpowering elegance. Fabric texture interacted with highlights, giving the camera something tactile to read, and the smoke diffused harsh edges, blending everything into a cohesive frame. Shooting through haze also forced me to think about depth layers: foreground particles, midground subject, background glow. This layering added a cinematic scale that made the small studio feel endless. I shot deliberately, not in bursts, waiting for moments where expression, posture, and smoke aligned. Patience is an underrated skill in photography. The best frames often appear between planned poses, when the subject relaxes into authenticity. The singer's performance instincts helped tremendously. Every glance carried intention, every gesture felt connected to an invisible soundtrack. Technically, I kept my aperture wide enough to isolate the subject, but closed enough to retain the light beams, balancing sharpness with atmosphere. Exposure was a dance between preserving skin tones and allowing shadows to stay rich, because contrast tells emotional stories that flat lighting cannot. What makes this session special isn't just the final images, but the invisible collaboration between artist and environment. The smoke machine operator became part of the rhythm, releasing timed bursts like percussion hits. The lighting setup acted like stage design, shaping a world around the performer. Even the silence between shutter clicks had weight, filled with anticipation for the next perfect alignment of motion and light. Behind every polished photo is a series of micro-decisions. Tilt the chin, rotate the shoulder, dim the fill, wait for the haze to settle. Those tiny choices accumulate into a visual language that viewers feel even if they don't consciously analyze it. The beauty of a two-light setup is its honesty. Nothing is hidden behind complexity. Every highlight is intentional, every shadow earned. The smoke acts as a translator between light and space, turning beams into architecture and giving the frame a three-dimensional heartbeat. When reviewing the shots on the monitor, what stood out most was the emotional continuity. Despite wardrobe changes and pose variations, the atmosphere remained consistent, tying the series together like verses in the same song. That continuity is what transforms a photo shoot into a narrative. It's not about capturing isolated, pretty pictures. It's about building a sequence that feels like a visual album cover unfolding frame by frame. The final images carry echoes of the process, the tension before the shutter, the swirl of haze, the quiet concentration on set. Viewers may see glamour, but what they're truly seeing is the choreography of light, timing, and trust. This session proves that you don't need a truckload of gear to create cinematic fashion imagery. With two lights, controlled smoke, and a performer willing to inhabit the moment, a simple studio can become a stage where photography meets music and technique